Welcome to April's Brenda Novak book group meeting. It's always fun to get together with you again. It seems like it's been longer this time than before. Sometimes they seem to come up really quick and sometimes they seem to take forever. Our featured read this month is There's Something About Mira by Sonali Dev. We'll be bringing Sonali on very shortly, and we will be careful not to do any spoilers in case you haven't quite finished the book. We don't want to give away all the juicy twists and turns. Be sure to share and like this video. That will enter you to win a $50 gift card to the Brenda Novak store. And put in the comments where you're joining us from, and if you can remember, when did you join the book group? Maybe some of you are new, and it'll be really fun to find those people and welcome you into the group. For those who don't already know, in this group, we feature a monthly read that we discuss together with the author on the last Thursday of the month. It's always at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. You have the chance to get an autographed copy of the book we're reading in the Brenda Novak book boxes. So they're very fun to collect. At the end of the year, you could have an autographed copy of each of the reads that you completed and earn your pin for completing the challenge, the yearly challenge. And you could subscribe and get a box automatically every month. That saves you a few bucks, or we make it possible that you can go on and just pick your favorites, whether it's for your birthday or Christmas or May's box because it's my favorite things, or my release in June, or whatever you would like to do. And that's at brendanovak.com. You just click on the store and you can find all kinds of fun reader-related merchandise that we sell there. April's box is all sold out. You can see part of it here, but we stole the caramels out and ate them. They were too good to pass up, but that is April's box. They're all sold out, but we do have more of the darling All You Need Is Books t-shirt. You've seen me, I'm sure, on my social media posts wearing that. It's a play on the Beatles, All You Need Is Love. And we got it in a wide range of sizes, all the way from small to 5X. So we are still selling that separately. Lexa got extra so people could get it separately. We are getting low on some of the sizes though. So if you have a particular size that you want, which we all do, you might want to order it soon. Since May's box is my birthday box, it's a tradition that we put my favorite things in there. And I got to go to India last November, and I found some really cool things that I wanted you to experience. And so one of them is this beautiful silk scarf. They were selling silk scarves everywhere. They took us to a place where they showed us how they do the weaving, and they talked about how they collect the silk from the worms. And anyway, I think the colors are deep and rich, and the fabric is just so airy and fine feeling. So we definitely wanted to put one of the scarves in May's box. I think you've heard us talk about the cool little elephant that we have, sterling silver elephant, that we're going to add to our bracelet. And this is the weekender bag though, that's going into June's box. Alexa put that up for us. This is not May's box. This is going to be June's box. This is what's coming with my book, autographed copy of my book in June. And it is the biggest item we've done so far, which is going to create some big challenges on shipping, which we haven't figured out quite yet, but Alexa always manages it. We think it's perfect. If you're coming to see me on tour, this will be the perfect item to shove all your belongings in and come see me. So definitely grab your June box if you'd like to get that cute weekender bag along with an autographed copy of my book. So we have what I'm really excited about is Janet Roble donated 2 May Brenda Novak book boxes that I get to give away tonight. And we're going to give that away to 2 live viewers in just a little bit. So welcome everybody who's joining me. It's fun to see you all here. I can see you all, more people coming in. And we will pick those winners from you guys a little later in the program. Like I said, it'll have that cool bag. It'll have an autographed copy of my book. And you can go on my website to check out the other things that are going in it. Same with May's box. So definitely check out the other things in that besides the little elephant charm and the beautiful silk scarves that will be going in that. So for those of you who missed the live I did this morning, I got my author copies of The Summer That Changed Everything. And so I got to hold it for the first time, and this is it. And it's so different than just seeing a picture of the cover when you actually get it. And of course, I always have to thumb through it and see what they chose for the praise on the first page. And you want to see, oh, yeah, they got the right author picture because they were using my old one for a while, and we updated that. And then it, of course, has the dedication to Pam Record, who is a member of our book group. So I'm excited for her to see that, and I'm excited for you all to get a copy. I hope you will love it. I hope that this cover, I love it. It's a graphic cover. It's very cool, but I hope that it doesn't lead people to think rom-con, because it is not a rom-con. It is very typical Brenda Novak style story. So anyway, hopefully you will love the new book. I'm very excited that it's coming out. We're also going to put with the bag that I told you about, and this is for June's box, right, Lex?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do the Yum Waffle. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but it was my first time when Alexa brought samples over, and I thought it was just delicious. It has these sugar pearls in it, and it's ready to eat. So something new. I like looking for fun new treats that maybe you haven't tried. That's what makes the boxes fun and unusual, to kind of branch out and try a few new and unusual things. Oh, whoops, there goes the waffle. Anyway, I'm going to try my best not to give away the surprise. I'm terrible at it. I mean, you never want to tell me a secret, especially if I'm excited about it. I always get excited about our surprise item, and sometimes I give it away too soon, but I'm going to try not to give away the surprise item this time. I think it's a special item. So my lips are sealed. And if you're a box subscriber, you're going to get a digital copy of this for free early. We're going to be sending out that link out shortly. All we ask is that you give a review in return, so you'll get to read it early. And I can't wait to see what you guys think of that. So maybe you'll want to subscribe now so that you can get your copy right away as well. So you can do that on the store at brendanovak.com. Another way, of course, to get an autographed copy of the book, the new book, besides the June box and the digital copy that we are putting out to subscribers, you can get it in the tour package. Alexa created these darling book earrings. We went through so many different types of book earrings that we wanted. We wanted something that we would really wear and it would be able to go with everything, and that we thought was classy and elegant. And so we went with sterling silver book earrings, just like this. And you have the chance right now to upgrade to 14 karat gold overlay. So I went with the gold, but today I probably should have done silver since I'm wearing my bracelet. But anyway, you can choose either if you hurry and we don't run out of one or the other. It also has a really cool bookmark in there that I love. It's a leather bookmark. You're not going to want to miss that. So in case you missed, we have all the tour dates on my website. But just in case you missed it, I want to go over the stops because I want to see as many of you as possible. So I want to help spread the word. If you know any readers who might be interested, we would appreciate you sharing the tour with them as well. So Sacramento kicks it off on May 31st. Details are on my website, so I won't go over each bookstore they're with, but we pass all of our book sales on to the indie stores who support us. So we appreciate you guys getting a book tour package when you come see me, because that's how we thank them for taking their time and using their staff and their store to host the signing. So in Cincinnati, Ohio, that's going to be June 2nd. So I have 10 stops, almost like back to back to back. So it's going to be a mad dash, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun. For 10 days, Lexi and I will be on this whirlwind tour. So Okemos, Michigan is Tuesday, June 3rd. Geneva, Ohio is Wednesday, June 4th. Plainville, Massachusetts is Thursday, June 5th. So I'm getting clear across the country from where I live. Haddonfield, New Jersey is Friday, June 6th. Bethany Beach, Delaware, right there on the beach. It's so lovely. Saturday, June 7th. Rehoboth Beach, or just Rehoboth, I guess, Delaware. Sunday, June 8th. Boonesboro, Maryland is going to be on Tuesday, June 10th. So I have a little bit of a break there, one day in between. And then I have Wake Forest, North Carolina on Wednesday, June 3rd. And then for those of you who are nowhere near and can't make the trip to any of them, we have the virtual party where we do our 50 basket giveaway and have lots of fun. So we do have a ship option on the tour package. If you like the tour package and want to get that and to attend the virtual party, we would definitely love to see you there. It doesn't require a ticket. Everybody's welcome, but go on the website to see all the various things that each of these things include. Now, back to those live winners that Janet Roble purchased a box for. They are going to be, let me see, let me get my phone. I got to look. It's right there if you want to hand it to me. Okay. We're looking. Lexi's helping me. Okay. Let's see if I can first get my way there. There we go. She should have got me on the page. I'm so bad at this. All right. And of course, it goes to not my author profile. It went to my personal profile. Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second.
Lexi's helping me right now too, if she can help me get there.
Oh, I don't think
I'm on
you
the
said
main
how
page.
to enter. Did you say?
Oh, that's why. I knew there was something I was missing. How you enter to win the box is by being here, but in the comments, so that we know who to pull them out of, say how you're getting a copy of The Summer That Changed Everything. So we will pick those in a little bit, since I screwed up the ask on that. So we'll move forward and then we'll go back to that. So at the end of Sonali Dev, after we visit with her, because we don't want to make her wait too long. So I'm super excited to get to this portion of the evening, because Sonali is just delightful. I have met her numerous times. I actually got to spend some time with her in Chicago when she interviewed me when I had a book coming out. She's just delightful, as you can probably tell from her book. She's just a beautiful person. Sonali spent a few decades getting degrees in architecture and writing, migrating across the globe and starting a family while writing for magazines and websites. With the advent of the first gray hair, her mad love for telling stories returned full force, and she now combines it with her insights into Indian culture to conjure up stories that make a mad tangle with her life as supermom, domestic goddess, and world traveler. Welcome, Sonali.
Hi, Brenda. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I've been waiting to do this for a very long time, and
Well, we
I'm
love
so glad we could.
You have such a beautiful way of writing, and especially with the characterization. And we've heard so many positive things about how deeply entrenched everybody got into the lives of these characters and how transformative it was. So the themes really came through loud and clear, but they weren't heavy-handed. It was just a beautiful job. So thank you for writing the book in the first place so that we could enjoy it. And then for signing all those books. How long did that take you?
It 2 hours, and like it was just under 2 hours, but I had so much help. I had my nieces and I had an army of these three girls who had taken this very seriously. And yeah, we had an assembly line. Someone was opening it. My daughter was opening boxes, and we had it packed and back in boxes and taped and done in under 2 hours.
Wow,
It
that's a
was
lot of
amazing.
work, but it is helpful when you have somebody cut open the boxes, take them out, stack them, find the page where you sign, and then, it's, to me, I think the hard part is always packing them up and retaping them. That's the part I don't like. I don't mind getting them out and signing, but it's like trying to get them out
So
of your house then is the challenge. So
yeah, so I just had to sign, and I usually kind of do message and sign. And this time I was so overwhelmed by the fact that there were so many that I just signed. And then I was like, I could have at least written all my love, you know? So everyone who has the boxes, you have all my love.
But when you're doing that many, it's hard to even add those three little words. Like I've even somehow regretted. I'm thinking I should have just done BS Novak, and get Brenda S. Novak, because it would have been a lot shorter, because I do this, every time I have a book come out, and after 80 books, that's a lot of signing.
That's a lot of signing.
Yeah,
I have a
I've stuck with it.
yeah, I only do Sonali. I don't do because my Sonali is my real first name, but Dev is not my real last name. And so sometimes I'll just like sign like I'm signing a check, and I'm like, oh no, that's not, they don't know.
Choose Dev as your pen name.
So my maiden last name is Maya Dev. And so then what I had thought I would do is split it and be Maya Dev. And that was my original pen name. And then people started calling me Maya, and it just felt off because I'm so Sonali, And so I had to. So then I'm like, okay, I'll keep my first name and I'll keep Dev as my last name. And, so that's where that came from.
I think it's a great pen name. It's not too long. It's easy to pronounce. I think that you chose well.
Thank you. And it was accidental. It's just half of my maiden name. So
perfect. Well, before we get into the interview, I have the last April box that I get to give away tonight. We put up a post in the book group where we ask people to RSVP to the meeting and to ask you a question. And we give away our last box on that post every month. And so I get to announce that winner right now. And it is Lori Marshall Meisheimer. So congratulations to Lori Meisenheimer. I think I might have said that wrong. Lori Marshall Meisenheimer. So anyway, we put up we will announce the winners of all of the giveaways in the book group on a post where we tag people, and we give the link where you can collect it so we get your address and everything. So watch for that. It'll show up in book group, and that filling that out is the only way we have to get out the stuff that we give away. So that's why we do that. But it's a secure place on my website where you can put your address so we can get that to you. So. And now, Sonali, your first literary work was a play about mistaken identities performed at your neighborhood Diwali extravaganza in Mumbai when you were only 8 years old. How did that go over?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's, I we lived in this neighborhood which did these, 5 day long. Diwali is, the biggest Indian holiday, especially, and it's this huge community thing, and they would build this big old stage, and all the kids in the neighborhood got to, perform and have kind of exposure to being on stage and doing these things. And it was, now when I look back at it was such an ambitious story. Can I tell you what the story was? Because it amazes me that this was the story I told. And it was me and my little motley crew of, friends, and we actually put the whole thing up. But it was this family. In India, I grew up in India, and it was this family who was really lazy. And this is India, so they have servants, and so they have this servant boy whose name is the same name as a Hindu god, and so everyone in the family would call out to him for every little thing, right? So his name is Narayan, and they're like, Narayan, get me water. Narayan, iron my clothes. They call out to him so much that God actually comes down from heaven, because they're invoking him so much that God actually shows up. And so and so that was my first ever idea. And it's really funny because thematically, there's a lot of like class and privilege and all of that, which at the time, of course, was not what was in my mind, but it was this complete like comedy of errors sort of thing happening, and it was so fun to do. And we did it a few times after that because it became so popular in our neighborhood.
Well, it's so clever, especially for an 8-year-old to think about. And I actually got to be there in Diwali, and I absolutely
Oh,
loved it.
yes.
For those who haven't experienced it, there are flowers, marigolds everywhere, everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
literally vendors lined up down the street with the leis laid out everywhere. They use them. They're wearing them. They're buying them. They're putting them. They create like decorations on the floor of the lobbies where we stayed that were big, beautiful, intricate, almost like a mosaic, but made with flowers. So if somebody accidentally fell into it, it would literally ruin this beautiful work of art that they had, kept
Yeah.
that they had created for us for the
Did
to
you also see the powder, the rangolis with, because they also do the same thing with like rice powder and
yes.
colored powders that they do, which I find so interesting because it's so much labor for something that is going to be swept away in a day or
Yeah,
two.
that's
Yeah.
what I think was a marvel for us, because you're thinking you put that much into it, you want it to remain, but they were happy just to have it there for that short time. And they did sell those beautiful powders everywhere, where with a little stamp set that for
Yeah.
the baby, and
Yes.
you could stamp it. And I got it for my granddaughter, and I have a darling picture of her in her cute Indian
I love it.
dress and her bindi on her forehead that she did with her beautiful powders. But
Yeah.
so do you try to go back to for Diwali every year, or is that
No,
not a consideration? No.
and we were there at the same time. I remember talking to you before you were going, and this was actually my first Diwali back home in, I think, maybe 20 years. It's been a while. We do celebrate at home, and I've but it's a lot of work because it's almost something you have to create culture artificially here for your children. And I would always, this was the first year that I was not around to do this for my kids, and
Oh,
they were by themselves, and it was really kind of gratifying that they at least got together and had dinner and did things like that. Because I would do all the part of India I'm from, we make a lot of like sweets and snacks, and everything is labor for the women in the household, like that's Indian culture, or used to be. And I would do the whole thing, and all my friends over the past, I've now lived here longer than there, it's close to 30 years, I'm at 29 years now. And I, my friends who continue to live in India don't do it. My cousins don't do it. They buy stuff.
oh
But
wow.
here I would make everything, and they'd be like, "Are you crazy?" But I wanted my kids to have that. And, I was always creating Diwali. And this time I was back in India, and, Diwali's everywhere. It's
I love that you're
it
preserving.
was,
I
yeah.
love it. It's so smart. And I really enjoyed getting to see it. My only real introduction to real Indian food. I mean, there's Indian restaurants, and I'm sure
Yeah.
maybe even some
Yeah.
Indian people run them and they're delicious. But I had been going with my husband. He sold lights to and solar to the Sikh temple down in Lodi, not far from where we live. And
Nice.
they would always invite us in to eat. And because they serve food there all day. And so their lentils and their paneer and all these foods we love, and their flatbread. I guess what they have there doesn't taste like the naan I know. Maybe they're calling it naan, but it was more of like a flatbread. I don't know. Is there a distinction, or was it naan, do you
Oh,
think?
there's like 20 types of food. But if you're at a gurudwara, my guess is it was a puri or a bhatura, is what I'm thinking. But also at the Sikh temples, the gurudwaras have some of the best food I have ever eaten in my life. So you really lucked out. There's something they do with their food that you cannot replicate it at home. And I mean, it's actually,
Make it when I was in India. They
yeah,
took me to a big Sikh temple that fed like 5,000 people a day.
it's
And
such
one
a
thing
beautiful
I
thing.
love about the Sikhs is that they do what I think most religions purport to do. Like they say, oh, we want to take care of the poor or the hungry. But I mean, the Sikhs really do it. I mean, nobody has ever turned away. You can go to any Sikh temple and stay. You can go to any Sikh temple and eat. They don't
There's always
your
food.
nationality, your belonging, I mean, you're just welcome.
You're
Uh, yeah.
and you know what's really lovely is when you walk in and the people who will take like watch your shoes or take your stuff, that person could be a CEO working right next to like a security guard, work next to somebody who fixes shoes on the street. Like it's all once you walk into the gurudwara, it's flat. When they're doing kar seva, which is when the service, the concept of each person going and serving.
Yeah.
And so when someone's serving you food, that person could be anywhere on the spectrum of class and wealth. And that is, I mean, that's
Yeah,
such a
they're
beautiful
just
thing.
humble and they give, and I love that they welcomed us back in the back and they let us help. I mean, I made bread and
Yeah,
they were feeding so many people that I don't know if how many
it's
readers that
amazing.
joined us saw the post that I did, but I mean, it was literally gigantic buckets with
Yes.
that they were taking to get the
Yeah.
lentils out to everybody. They were huge
Yeah.
vats.
Yeah.
And using buckets to get the food out, and the people were
Yeah.
just sitting all on the floor eating, and it was lovely. I mean, I got it was a fun experience because I had already experienced the Sikh temple at home, so I was familiar with it. But to see it even on a bigger and grander scale
Yeah. Yeah.
was quite impressive.
Did you go to the one in Amritsar? Did you go to the one in Amritsar or only in Lodi?
I think it was in Delhi.
So now you didn't go to the Golden Temple, the main,
No,
the one. So the Golden Temple in Amritsar
one
is a
we
whole
didn't go
different.
to, but it was a big one. It
Yeah,
wasn't the biggest in
yeah,
India, but it was big and it was beautiful, and the people there were they were lovely. So I loved getting to be there during Diwali, and I would love to be able to go back. I look back on that trip and think it was a trip of a lifetime. So I'm a true lover of India, and I was sad that when Sonali was there, she was in Mumbai, which was too far south and on the coast, correct? And we
yes.
were up in Delhi, Varanasi, Jodhpur, so more north. And so Sonali and I wanted to hook up. We thought it would be really fun to do a video for you guys together in India. So we tried to make it work, but we couldn't quite pull it off. India is a big country.
Your next trip, you should, visit, come stay with my parents. It's, we'll do that.
Love it. Yeah, we actually had a friend there from the Sikh temple that my husband had met. He met us there and he took us out to dinner and showed us the beautiful parts of New Delhi. And we got to go to Old Delhi too, which was probably my favorite. It was quite an experience. With
It's,
your reminded me a lot of with all the wedding finery and everything. It
yes.
was because that trip in Old Delhi. A lot of it's the wedding mart, and so we saw the most gorgeous wedding clothes anybody could imagine. The fabrics and everything were just
It's
there was no
bananas. Chandni Chowk, yeah, it's bananas. Chandni Chowk is just, it's just completely, and a funny story. Again, we could just talk about your India trip the whole time, but I'll tell this story. I took my kids. I wrote a book, Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, when my kids were still, I think, early high school, late middle school, and I was. The hero of this book grew up in Southall in London, which is literally like a Punjabi village, just like 20 minutes outside of London, between right outside Heathrow. So it's like you take the bus into Southall and it is like going into Punjab in the 70s. So
wow.
that whole thing with the fabrics and the bangles hanging and the narrow market streets, and
Yes,
it's
I
and
love
people walking around in salwar kameezes and pugs and all of that. This happens just in
have the
London. And
rickshaws.
I'm sorry.
Did they have the rickshaws there?
No, they didn't. I mean, it
Oh,
was London, so they. But the drivers of the buses and everything was, they were Sikh and Punjabi, and all signs are in Punjabi, and we're talking literally in like main London. Okay, it's just
that's cute.
it's bizarre, and I wanted to do research, and I wanted to kind of go there, and my kids were, just so upset with me. We're in London and you want us to go to this place and you drag us to India every year, and here you want us to, want to drag us to India even in London. And it was hilarious. But it literally, what you saw in Chandni Chowk and in Punjab is almost, there's this little community which is almost fully replicated. It's amazing. So
I definitely that's on my bucket list. I definitely want to see that. So, how did that play that you did grow into the writing that you're doing now?
So actually, I kind of, always, authors have a moment when they realize they're a writer, or, that I didn't have that moment. I always remember being someone who loved to write. And I was a military brat, very young. My dad, we moved around. And I think that I was so used to being a new kid on the block, and I was kind of always in, and I was always a chatterbox. Like right from, I think, the day I was born, it was important to me that everyone know what my opinion about everything is, and I think that is the soul of all writers. We just want people to know what we think, right? Why would you do this if you didn't, right? If you didn't want people, if you didn't respect your own opinion and want to share it with the world. And so I think that I was known as a chatterbox. I was. Always talking, and I think that making new friends at every new station my dad was posted at. The easier thing was to talk to a journal, right? So I think we called them diaries back then. Journaling wasn't the word we used. And so Ex- and exactly, so I think I had that need to write down, and it kind of took away from, so my diary was always my friend, and so I always got to express opinions there. So very young, I was doing things like every time I watched a movie, read a book, I wrote a review. I remember, and I went to, I didn't it took me some time to consider it as a viable option of feeding myself, which I think, right, which is a so as a career, it took me a long time to, publishing came later.
Yeah.
But writing was always kind of a part of my identity. I was always writing. I was
That's
writing
really
plays.
curious that you were doing it so long. Like that journaling can be really important for inspiring creativity and just giving you exercise. But how did you then take that from getting published? How did
Uh,
you the first book?
so I never thought I would write fiction, although, this play thing had happened, and I did a few more kind of, fun little play things, even in college. But I never thought that I would write stories. Like my mindset wasn't fiction; it was always, again, opinion and op-ed, and I wanted to be a journalist. I have a degree in architecture because that was what I did for, that's my that was what I thought I would have to do to feed myself. And then I started working in architectural journalism. So I always thought that's what would happen.
Yeah.
But my best friend, who lives in India, is a movie producer, and she was one of her movies had this was 20 odd years ago. Her movie had won a national award. She was getting a lot of scripts to read, and we've both been huge movie buffs all our life. And so we lived on two different continents, but we're talking on the phone almost every day. We're discussing all the movies and we watch and the books we read. And she was like, I'm not getting anything I love. How hard is it to write a good commercial script? And I said, seriously, how hard is it? And she said, well, you like to write, you should just write me one. And I said, you know what, I'm going to. How hard can it be? And famous last words. Right? And that's my really awful book beneath my bed. But once I had done that, in I think a month, I was a young mother, with all so much going on, full-time job, all of that. But I wrote her this thing in a month, in less than a month, in a few weeks.
Wow.
And we started to dip. But once I had done that, once I had created a character and thought about plot, and I realized that's what I enjoy, like the journey, creating that world, getting lost in it,
Yeah.
was like that, what I'm talking about, that high.
Yeah.
And I went to my library checked out every book, from like the entire craft section, right? So something as simple as how to write a novel, write novel writing for dummies. Like that's literally what I did. And I was lost. And I started with, trying to write something highly literary. And again, I was talking to my best friend. It was so hard, and she said, well, and I was sick, and so I was frustrated. And she she says to me, why don't you write something you love to read? And I'm like, oh, there's a concept. And I was, reading romance and watching Bollywood films, which is romance. And I had this love story sitting inside me for a while. And boom, once I had, and that was Bollywood Bride. And that was, once I had put that on paper, I was lost.
Yes,
I
I
was in
remember
love.
reading that. I remember when that came out. I remember meeting you at RWA, and
Yeah.
I even got a signed copy at RWA. So that was my first introduction to your work, and I loved it. And I love all things Indian, so of course that really appealed to me.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. So that was, and once I had written that, then I think the publishing happened, because I was taking classes at the University of Chicago, and someone said, there's this organization called the RWA. And I promised myself, when I wrote the end on my first manuscript, is when I will go and join them. And again, walking into a local RWA meeting, in 2010, I think this is 2010, it was life altering. I walked in and it was like coming home. And the rest is history. I mean, I was just completely, I didn't even know. Everybody said, are you querying yet? And I said, what's a query? Like, that's where we started, and they held my, how RWA was for us back then, held my hand through, and it just, I would not have a career without that. And
I feel the same way. I mean, I found RWA in 98 and 97, I think was my first
wow.
year. And it was the same thing. I just knew a second that I got into that hotel lobby and I saw all those women marching around. There were like 2,000 of them.
Yeah.
And I thought I had just finished my manuscript too. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is how I could get to the next step. Because they had publishers there. They had agents there. They had craft classes to teach me what I had done wrong and how I could improve. And I just remember I went home so high, literally. I mean, I've never taken drugs, but this was the highest I've ever been.
This is the
And I
highest.
wrote that manuscript, and that's what finally in the Golden Heart and ended up getting published. So, who was your first publisher, and did you meet them at RWA then?
So I a little bit of a different story, right? Because 2010 very different from today. There were, I would say, in print, no contemporary romances that had Indian characters on the shelves, or there might have been a couple, but it was almost this void, right? There was it and you could go to, and you could pitch stuff, and to your face there would be editors saying to you, they're both Indian. Like, who's going to want to read that? I mean,
Gosh.
that was they could. I mean, today an editor would lose their job for saying it, which means we've come a long way in 11 years. But it was a completely different world, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "What's Bollywood?" And I was kind of saying it's like Bollywood style romances, and they're like, "What's Bollywood?" And so it was a whole different world. There was this
Wow.
whole Netflix thing, and streaming opening up the world, and globalization had just started. Like, the world was a very different.
Self-publishing was just starting too, which now has offered us more niche, which at that time would have been considered more niche, like only a certain amount of people. Now it's you can self-publish, but you breaking into something that had those
Yeah.
early, predetermined mindsets of like, oh, this won't sell was huge. I remember everybody, and then how much everybody loved it and what a great buzz it got, which must have been super gratifying to you.
It was, but also, the climb goes on. It's not so it was, it's been a lot of banging my head against, glass brick wall. It literally was that. And so I was rejected by every agent in North America, I love to say. And so and I was getting rejections that said, this is some of the most beautiful writing that's crossed our desk, but we don't know what to do with it.
Oh
And
my.
then at that point I was like, okay. So I was starting to get cynical. It had been about a year and a half, 2 years that I had been working on it, and I was in in RWA, the publishers would do this thing where they would sell the publisher. It was called something, and I'm having a
Is
brain
that
fart.
sales
But
conference, you mean?
what is it?
Are you talking about sales conference or what?
No, no, no. They would. There was like, we pitched to them, but there was also these not workshops, but they called them
Query,
something. It'll come.
the query sessions?
No, it was when they would kind of do the whole PowerPoint. This is what
Oh,
we
the
have.
spotlights, the spotlight.
Spotlights.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Kensington was doing it. Thank you. Kensington was doing a spotlight, and Martin Bureau was doing it, and they all loved to say, "Oh, we're looking for something different." And
Oh,
at that point, I was so like, right. And so I put my hand up and I said, "Really, what would you say?" So I pitched to him in the middle of a spotlight, and he
wow.
said, "I'd be excited. Why don't you come talk to me after the session?" And there was like silence in the room, because this is not a thing people did.
Wow.
And I went and I chatted with him after, and we really got along. And he had started it, I think, as a, where they throw you the little bone, and he was like, "Yeah, just send me a partial." But as we talked more, he said, "You know what, send me the full." And I said, I might want to do some work on it. He said, "Take your time, I'm right here, send it to me when you're ready." And so I waited. I tried again to find agents, could not find an agent, and finally said, "Okay, I'm at the end of this road." Kensington was my dream publisher, because they were the only ones who had Indian American, Chinese American books on shelves. Nobody else. They had one. It was a checkbox. They had one author of each culture,
Wow.
but no one else did. And so then I thought, they know what they're doing. And
Mm.
so they were my dream publisher, and I just sent it off. At one point I'm like, this is never going to happen, and everyone said no to it, and I sent it off. In 2 days I heard back from him, and when I saw the email come in, I was like, it's a I had by that time seen hundreds of rejections, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
when it came in, I shut my laptop down, because I said, there is no way anyone has read this book in 2 days. And
Oh,
then I went to get my husband at the train station, and I was he saw my face and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, Kensington got back to me. And he said, "What did they say?" And I said, "I haven't opened the email." And he said, "What is wrong with you?" So he came home. He said, "Do you want me to open it?" So he opened my email, and he looks at it, and he says he wants to know when he can talk to you.
oh
And
my
Brenda, I fell down on my kitchen floor and I
God.
sobbed. I lay on my back and I sobbed. It was, and so I had, once I had an offer from him, then I went looking for and it was 4 books with him, and he was the best editor to start
Is
with.
that John Scognamiglio? Is that
No, it was Martin Bureau.
oh, okay. Because I
He was,
heard him speak at RWA, so I thought maybe because he
no,
seemed
no, it
quite
wasn't.
yeah.
It
Well,
was Martin, and then I think when I left Kensington is when he left Kensington too.
oh,
And one of the things he said to me is a thing, when I'm having dark moments in publishing, I hold close to my heart. And he had done some big authors, and he said, the highlight of my time here was finding Sonali Dev.
isn't
And
it so
um,
nice?
and I was like, and we had, it was I've every one of my editors, I love them just from the bottom of my heart. I've With that one thing in publishing, I have been so incredibly lucky, so
No,
incredibly
you are such a pioneer, and coming from the perspective of how difficult it is to get published, regardless of who you are. I mean, it's a fortress. And then when you look at what you had to force your way through or over these hurdles that were higher, right? It just hats off to you. It says so much about your writing and your tenacity and your unflagging spirit. And I think that it's just wonderful that you have written so many wonderful books now. And I love the ones that you did that were takes on Jane Austen.
things.
That was so clever. What made you think of that?
So I'm going to step back and say that, I mean, I was there was some pioneering in it, but I stand on the shoulders of people who had done a lot of work before I came along, and a lot of people who probably didn't get to get that far, but people were, a lot of women. There was Beverly Jenkins and Brenda Jackson, and all of them doing a whole lot of work. And
Yeah.
I would not be here, Nalini Singh, like without them, right? So I do want to say that. But coming back to Jane Austen, I kind of fell in love with her in middle school. So it was I don't know if you remember this, but in our childhood, the books we grew up on were all male protagonists. And if there was ever a woman in a book, she was written by a man. And if she ever desired anything, she ended up either in a padded room or dead or not getting what she wanted. And Jane Austen, the first time I read Pride and Prejudice, it was literally, he was a woman who had opinions about everything, expressed them, made fun of the community, the aunties and the world around her.
Even some
And
of
she
the
was loved
customs
for
and
those
everything
things.
that limited people. Yeah, she had such a good way of
And so
highlighting
she
in a
had,
comfortable way.
say that again. I'm sorry, I'm
So
cutting
she
you
had
off.
such a good way of highlighting even some of the conventions that were sort of ridiculous that they lived with, right? But and so it's almost like she could laugh at her own time period.
And she stayed within it, which was so much my life. Like so it reinforced who I was, that the world was not reinforcing. And I think Jane Austen did this for a lot of women, right? She
Yeah.
had heroines who had self-worth, who could say, this is what I want, this is what I do not want. Even if you're the richest man in England, I don't want you because you're a jerk and I deserve that, right? And she got what she wanted. She wasn't punished for it. Of course she grew. And so as a woman and as a human, Jane Austen was a huge influence in my life. And I
Yeah.
knew back then, and so I was already back then kind of retelling these stories in my head with with Bollywood heroes and the boys in my neighborhood and my aunties and the world. And so I knew when I was going to do something with those novels. And they've been retold in every which way, right? So I knew, once I started taking my writing seriously, I knew it was not going to be just a cultural translation, but something. And so these books are kind of my homage to everything I learned from her. So they're very thematic, and they're my four favorite Jane Austen novels, and they're set in this world of this politically ambitious Indian American family in California, whose oldest son is running for California governor. And so that's the arc. And I also wanted to set all four under one story umbrella. And they are my takes, really, really kind of gratitude to what I learned from her from each one of these books. So they are not scene by scene, character by character retellings, but they're very strong thematic retellings that matter to me. Just
They were
it's
excellent as well. Beautiful, beautiful stories. So, how have your parents reacted to your writing, even though you tackle some challenging, like you may not always paint parents in the best possible light? Do you ever feel as though, I mean, do they read your work? Do they comment on this?
so the only person in the world who has read every one of my books is my dad, including the ones with open door sex. So
Wow.
I am very, very blessed when it comes to parents. I am incredibly close to both parents. I could commit murder and they will kind of discuss how we can get past this, and where we are going to bury the body. So very much those parents never always believed in and a really good balance of really practical, therefore architecture school when I did like to write. But I can discuss all of that now. It I have my asked me, she said, you have the world's best dad. I really do. And she said, you have the world's best dad and you write these heinous fathers. What is that about? And I have wondered that myself. I'm like, where is this coming from? And I had to kind of really think about it. And I think seeing my dad while seeing everyone else's dad that I was growing up with, because there was, the patriarchy was alive and well in India when I was growing up. I think it's still alive and
Still
well,
is,
but
yeah,
back then it
still
was
there.
really overt. It was really overt in my world. And when you have something that is the way it should be, you really become kind of where it's failing everywhere else. And so I had very little patience for that, that kind of thing. And it was very obvious to me every time I stepped out of my home. And so I think that for me, the dads I write stand-ins and metaphors for the patriarchy and for everything, that a dad should be but isn't. And and I think my dad is completely,
Well, he must
aware of
be
that. So
confident then. I'm glad it's turned this direction because it would be
yeah,
hard. I was afraid that maybe they could see types of themselves, even if it was an exaggeration in this work, right? Which would be difficult to face in some regards. Because I even think of that in my own writing when I write parents who maybe are not stellar. It's not limited only to your work, it's across the board when
yeah.
we represent parents. Sometimes you're thinking, are they extrapolating what I'm saying here into thinking this is coming back on them, so I'm glad that you have such a close relationship that they
Yeah.
know this is not resentment or any statement that you are making about your own parents. So now we've talked about your parents. What do your kids think of your writing? Are they excited that they have a mother who is a writer? And how do they feel about the transition between the old world and the new world? I mean, they're safely entrenched in the new one. They probably don't have the difficulty of the sandwich generation that you've had. But do they identify with some of the difficulties of trying to walk the line, both sides of that line?
So two sides to this, right? I mean, I when I moved to America, it was not my first trip. My uncle's been here since the 60s, so we used to come by, spend summers here, and so there was a lot of we traveled a lot. My dad, was a commercial pilot for the second half of his career, so we'd seen the world. So and a lot of exposure and all of that. So it's a bit of a, so it isn't quite like there wasn't this huge culture shock. And one of the things I was very aware of as a mom was the fact that when I was 23 when I moved to this country. So I was formed. I knew who I was. My armor was formed. And so in interactions when I was othered, I already knew who I was. I had the skills to deal with it. My children who were born here, from the day they were born and from the time, so they had to face it before their armor came along. And we were, so I was always very, very conscious of the fact that the experience they're having, I'm never going to have firsthand experience of that experience. And so I have to always listen. And I think that's the thing that a lot of immigrant parents have a hard time with, that they think, oh, we never had to worry about this. And we never, and I was very conscious. And I was, in my group of friends, in my marriage, all of that, I was very much like, listen, this is, and so I think my kids are aware. And, so that was the thing I think I got right. Although I had to fumble, I did everything from trying to kind of de-exotify their lives. So I kind of went into their schools and did, presentations on Diwali. I kind of tried to, bring, and then I started to, so both ends, kind of, and they could always come home and talk about this stuff. My son in middle school said, I'm not taking lunch from home. And I found out many years later that he had taken this tapioca thing. And, for the rest of that year, it was like Mihir brought worms to school,
Oh,
or worm eggs or something like that. And so, those were things. Now they're very well adjusted kids. They're very American and very Indian. And I think that they're so comfortable in their identity because we never, because we were aware of it and we kind of pushed for the communication. And so we kind of worked that into our parenting. So I think that piece of it, but as a writer, I always say that I will, I've had to do the work, and I think we all women have to do the work of never making ourselves smaller for anyone, because the world always demands that we make ourselves smaller,
yeah.
right? But as a mom with my kids, it's always about them, right? I know that, I'm sure this is a thing that you have also dealt with. And so, having whatever minor fame or, name recognition that goes with it, it isn't the main thing. So they'll make fun of that. They come to all my launch parties. They'll do all of that. But mom is about mom, right? Mom is, and I've gotten more pushy with it as now they're 26 and 20. I'm sorry, they're 25 and 23. So, but I have to tell a funny story again. I know I'm going to go over, but my son was had, I think, freshman in high school, and that was so my first four books are open door, with sex, and his girlfriends in the cafeteria at lunchtime read the sex scene in Bollywood Bride out loud in the
Oh,
cafeteria.
no.
So it's really funny in retrospect, but he was really scarred by
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
I had a similar thing happen. My son was only in 8th grade, and I had a girl bring one of my books and read a sex scene to him, and he didn't tell me at the time, but I've heard about it since. So, you have to have conversations about context at that time.
it was just funny. It was so funny, but 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 he was, so as a young person, he was like, I want to have nothing to do with your books. But
Oh, right.
they do really well. They mom is basically someone they're very comfortable making fun of. I cannot ever take myself seriously in this house because my kids have, they're complete brats. They're irreverent. They have like the worst and most amazing sense of humor. So
Oh,
they're very comfortable with all of
well,
it.
the son that happened to just sent me a picture of him sitting on the couch with his girlfriend, laying in his lap, and he's reading to her one of my books, which I thought was really sweet. So that's a special picture for me. I posted it. I guess it's been a few months, but anyway, that was the kid who was scarred by this reading. But one of our most popular things from last book group was the spilling the tea. So I'm going to move on real quick so that we can get to that. And because I also still want to get to some reader questions. So let's go to spilling the tea, which basically is where we discuss candidly some things about the publishing industry. And I have to tell everybody that Sonali had no qualms about doing this. She's as you can tell, a very courageous, brave, confident woman. And so she's like, I'm willing to share anything. Like, we can talk openly. So we are going to spill the tea a little bit more on the publishing industry because you guys let us know that you loved it so much last time. So Sonali, what's your biggest pet peeve about the book industry?
I think it's the most obvious one, which is it never you can never relax. If a book does, you're only as good as your last book sales, or that's what they tell you, and that combined with the fact that there is zero predictability about which book is going to hit and which is not.
Yes.
I think that's the it's like it now 12 years in the industry, it has taught me more than it scares me. But I think that the fact that the sales numbers are is everything. Like the the
You're
your critical acclaim.
numbers. And now that we're in a computer age, they know exactly what that is. And what's interesting, most readers may not know this, but when you do get sales numbers and your publisher has them, that's not only indicative of how good your book is, because the publisher is a partner. So it depends on if they got you pockets, if they gave you promotion, if they brought you out at a good time when there wasn't, so much competition that you were swallowed up. There's so much more on the other side. So it's like you're two people that are partners. And if you don't both do your part, like you tell a great story, they have to package it well, they have to sell it well, they have so much of the work too, and yet those numbers are yours. Like, they rarely say, oh, that's our fault, we didn't do enough for your book, or they're just going to say, well, we're not going to pay you as much because you didn't sell, or we're not going to renew your contract because there were not enough sales here. And that's the way. It's not exclusive to her publisher or mine. That's just the way the publishing industry works. And so it can be kind of hard, because you could get with a publisher who maybe doesn't do the best thing for that particular book, and it would have gone great guns in a different with a different publisher if it had published it differently, and yet then you may not get a new contract because of that. So it's I think for me, the biggest challenge for publishing is that the target keeps changing, and it's because of innovation, right? Which is both good and bad. Everything's a double-edged sword. So with indie pubbing, it created so much variety and ability to reach niche markets, and there was no more threshold that you had to bust down to be able to get in, which is a beautiful thing because it opens it up to so many people. But then at the same time, it floods the market with supply, and whenever you flood the market with supply, then you deal with the fact that prices fall for everyone, and then there are people that get shook out of the market because they can't make a living. So it's like what side do you want to look at? There's a positive and there's a negative, but I think every industry you could probably say that for.
Yeah.
So.
And constant change, right? It's constantly, every time you think, okay, I know what's happening, it's boom, no, you don't. So you never know.
You think, oh, it's great because my next book's going to get into Target, and then they'll say, no, only if you are a book talk sensation, which means you have to have made it on TikTok, which may not even be your thing. Like, we mainly have people, our biggest followers are on Instagram and Facebook, and we haven't done a lot with TikTok. And then suddenly the entire focus, and you can't even get a pocket in Target unless you are this book talk, sensation. So it just, as soon as you think, okay, I've got it figured out, then suddenly it just kind of veers away from you. So it can be a constant challenge trying to hit this moving target,
It's
right?
impossible. It's impossible. You just have to write what, I mean, I just write what I love writing, and leave the rest, that's not
Yeah,
in my
yeah. I
hands,
just
to
made a
the
video
universe.
about that. What
Yeah.
it's really about. It's you get caught up in, am I going to make it? Am I going to get another contract? Are they going to, try and cut my advances? And really, it's about the journey and not the
Yeah.
destination. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. There's no way to predict. Yeah.
okay, what's a backhanded compliment you've received from a reader?
Can I be completely honest? I'm going to be completely honest. I think I get the thing that really gets me is how surprised readers are that, especially when it's a reader who's never read a book that isn't, their own culture, which in America ends up being white, is the surprise that goes with the fact that they could relate. So
Uh,
my gosh, this is so. If you go and look at all my, I mean, whatever 15,000, whatever number of reviews that are on Amazon, and there's a lot of really lovely reviews, but almost each one of them will call out the culture, which from the reader's perspective I get, but from the person who's writing it, it's like the story, instead of getting the story getting talked about, it's the fact that it's different
mhm,
culturally. So I think the surprise that, oh my gosh, this is so relatable. I
yeah.
mean, you read vampires,
Right.
and
And you can relate to
so
their goals, desires, and motivation. But I feel a little guilty because I came at this a little bit the same way, but only because I loved the Indianisms. Having been there, that the way you depicted the families and the humor that ran through it because of the family control. Sometimes, I mean, it wasn't all funny because it was very serious in some
it's
respects.
funny.
But I loved that because to me that was one of the major pluses for the story. So I called that out too in my own heart, but only because to me it was something that I loved about the book.
Yeah, and it's not you or the readers, it's the world we live in, right? Which is the world we live in, and which is the world to some extent I would very much like to change. But it's the world we live in, so it's, no shade on anybody. I'm very grateful for everybody who reads and feels like, wow, I could relate to it. But for me, it lands, in a painful place every time someone says, oh my gosh, I could relate to this. And I'm like,
This
yeah,
is a
because
spot.
I'm human like you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, I can understand that. Well, my backhanded compliment that I've gotten from a reader is I just love trashy novels when they pick up your book. And you're like,
God, that,
what did you just say to
what?
me? And they mean it very nicely, but they don't realize that it's an insult at the same time. So it's kind of funny.
And the fact that you loved it, right? And if you're going to call it trashy, then what are you saying about your own taste? So
Yeah,
it's
I
kind of
think that
just
we've been programmed to feel guilty if we enjoy
programming.
romance, right? Because of the stereotypes that
It's
exist. So
programming.
that's their way of excusing the fact that they love it by acknowledging in their mind that, oh, I'm agreeing with all these other people. I realize it's not high literature, but I love it.
Love
And
it.
so I get where they're coming from, but it just is a kind of a funny way to state it to the author for sure.
I know. Oh,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
what is your bad writing habit?
Oh my gosh, this is an easy one. It is. So I gain like 10 pounds every time I finish a book, and then I have to lose it. I eat continuously and badly, like candy, chips, and it's like this inferno I was telling you, in fact, earlier, that this kind of hungry monster opens up inside me when I'm especially first draft, like that first draft energy. Just I have to feed it constantly, and again I've come to a place where I'm like, I'm not going to fight this is something my brain and my chemistry needs, and it's terrible, but I do it.
Gosh, that yeah, it's hard not to piece. When I think, like I kind of want to nibble, I find. But probably my worst habit has become the internet. Like I used to concentrate so hard because I had such short hours. I raised 5 kids and wrote 3 books a year, and I just had to. And I was doing the auction, the diabetes auction. So I mean, I had such limited time to write. I really had to make them count. And now, as I've cleaned off some of those other things off my plate, and I have a little more time, I find that instead of getting more done, I get less done because I've gotten this filthy habit. Well, not filthy, but terrible habit of switching over every line. Like I'll write 2 lines and I'll switch over to see what people are saying on Facebook or whatever. And so it's become kind of this
Yeah.
just it's ruining my focus, and I need to get like a separate computer, one for social media and one for the writing, so that I can still stay focused for long periods of time. I think I'm training my brain wrong.
Yeah,
So
it's a universal problem. I mean, absolutely. I do that also. And then I make excuses. I'm like, oh, this is just resetting. This is just circuit breaking, and no, it's not.
taking a break. Just got to see if that email came in. I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you ever sent an email to the wrong person?
Oh my gosh. I have not, but I've done, really dumb things. I just changed agents, and I keep like, I will do the send, and I'll be like, oh my God, which one did I send it to? Because it'll be about the, so thing, but funny, stupid things I've done. I did once call my boss at work, Papa.
Oh,
So, so I've never sent the wrong email, but I called him my dad.
oh,
So,
I did send the wrong email because and my editor was a lovely person, and she stayed with me for, well, she still is one of my good friends. But she was the type of person that we did not speak openly about. Like, if I didn't like the cover, I would still be polite about it. I wouldn't be, I really don't like, it wasn't that type of an editor relationship where you can just be totally honest and go, God, can you fix this? Like, I really don't like it. It was almost like, if me saying that to her would be hurtful, like her saying, can you write a better book, kind of thing. You see what I mean? So it was still a very polite exchange about that. And I had just gotten a cover that I hadn't been able to change, and I wasn't that thrilled with it. And I wrote this email that was very frank, and I thought I was sending it to my best friend. So it was that kind of frank. And I sent it to her because it was talking about her. And so I remember when she called me, just that feeling in my stomach, just like, what have I done? Because I did not want to hurt her. It was really just venting, and I did love the cover, but I would never, like I said, have hurt her. So I had to do some talking and apologize. And fortunately, she was a big enough person to forgive me, but it did hurt her feelings, and I felt really terrible. Luckily, it was nothing negative about her, only the cover.
just the
But still, she took it a little personally, and I felt so bad. And now I'm so careful every time I go to send any text or anything. I'm like, check to make sure that I'm not screwing up, because I want to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That's hurting me, even just like hearing it.
No, I felt so stupid. Like, I mean, luckily it was nothing too bad. It wasn't one that could have been terrible, but it was bad enough. I felt stupid and terrible for doing it. But okay, last one for Spill the Tea. Do you have a cover that you hate?
Oh my gosh, covers are always like such yes, a few. So Bollywood Affair, which is my first book, which came out in 2014, was was is a full on rom com. And I wanted so badly for them to put a like it's classic rom com, and I wanted them to have like a Bollywood poster on it or something, right? Something fun. They have henna hands, with a sari under it. So this very women's fiction, like
Yeah.
it screams India. So all my first four covers were just like Indian book, which is kind of, I really did not want them to do that, because it's not, I mean, these women only put a sari on if there's a wedding going on, like us. And
Yeah.
so, but there's always so all of them, they did good things for those books in that time frame, but they have put, without, I'm just going to say it, without my permission or running it by me, those four books now have new covers on on Amazon, which I found out by accident.
Oh, wow.
When I went to Amazon, I'm like, what is this? And so there's four new covers that I absolutely loathe.
Oh, wow.
But they were never run by me.
I know the original because I have it. And then, so I need to look and see what they did to the covers. I'm curious now.
They leaned into it's literally like hand-drawn illustrations of women in villages in India. And my books are very urban, as you can imagine. So it's horrific. Like I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. And
That's a bummer.
it's, yeah. And
Yeah.
someday, and you pick your battles, and I'm like, do I want to go back and kind of, my agent was different then, all of that, and someday I want to go back and say, you're supposed to run my covers by me if
Yeah.
you're going to do this, and they never did. And my editor is no longer there. If he had been there, it would be completely different.
It would not have happened.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I get to some reader questions, because I feel like I always shortchange them. So I've got to got to make sure I do that. Sorry, guys. It's so nice of you to submit questions. I do want to get them in. And so let's march forward with those. Martha Frosto wants to know, what was your inspiration for this novel? There's something about Mira.
So my gosh, I want to really run through this, but it is, oddly enough, with this story, and without spoilers, I think the thing that I wanted to talk about was, was living, coming to the end of your life, living your entire life as a lie, or having to live it because of the rules of the world. And at the end of your life, looking back and thinking you never got to live who you were, like the pain of that. And I think that comes from, when I was a teenager, I had overheard a conversation with a younger friend in our neighborhood talking to this girl she liked. And the girl was trying to kind of tell her that they liked each other, and she was trying to say, but and she's like, but I can't help it, like, how can you tell me to like someone else and like a boy when you're the one I like? And there was just, and I'm paraphrasing, but that memory kind of was, branded in my brain. And there was just so much basic human pain in, in what she was saying, that it just kind of sat with me. And ever since then, this idea of how many people have had to not be who they are. And when your life's gone, it's gone. If you didn't get to be who you are, it's gone. And so the story of the of Reva and Vasu was what was the thing I wanted to tell. This looking back at a life gone by with
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
lost. And I was looking for a vehicle for it, and I couldn't. I was like, all these ideas. And after a brainstorming session with my editor and agent, my editor again is amazing, she sends me, she's like, the brainstorming had not kind of come up with anything. And then she kind of emailed me later this article in the New York Times where this girl had lost her, had found a lost ring and gone searching for the owner. And she said, I don't know how this fits in with what you're saying, but if I ever wrote a book, this would be the, like, it would be something based in this. And it was a completely different story, but that was the thing. And I read that article. It was a short 2-paragraph article in the New York Times, and boom, like, I that article, and I was like, there it is. And she just sent me that article, and it was like that.
That's so great. I loved the hunt that they went on and the story that unfolded through those letters. It was just beautiful. Mary Cutter says, I love the theme of living your own truth and being true to yourself. With familial and societal expectations, this can be difficult for many people. How did this come about being a theme for your books? And I think you pretty much shared that with the story that you just told us, with the painful interchange of that very human potential of love lost, of what could have been if you didn't force yourself into being what everybody else considered to be the right thing, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's a theme across my books. That's what every one of my books is about. It's about, as a woman, as a woman above all else. But there are also male characters. But I think that it's a very female experience to be trained, at least in my generation, to be trained to be everything for everyone. So societal and familial expectations form such a large part of our brain training,
Yeah.
and we're constantly walking that tightrope between personal freedom and personal fulfillment, and being everything to everyone. I don't know a woman who has not walked that tightrope walk. And so that is my life's, like, figuring that out and deconditioning is my life's mission for my own life. And kind of trying to help people explore that a little more. And so thematically, it's every one of my books is that
That's
you
your core
still,
story.
that's my core story, always to still be the heart of a community, to still be completely tied, because that's very important to me, but to not lose yourself, to still be able to find out who you really are. That's always my core story.
Interesting enough, I
It's
know that
that tightrope walk is always it.
Michelle Obama is facing this right now. I don't know if you've seen sort of the news articles about how, she was talking about wrestling between what she was expected to do by attending the inauguration, how she chose not to. And everybody assumed it was because her and Obama must be getting a divorce, when really she's saying, maybe I made that choice for me, maybe, I mean, she didn't state it this bluntly, but I got the impression she said, maybe I just didn't want to be there and I chose me for a change. And I thought that was interesting, reading that article, because what you're saying reminded me of following that story, which
Absolutely.
I have been following.
Yeah.
Cindy Newland said, what is your biggest challenge you had writing this book?
This particular book, this was one of those books that I really like. That was pure joy to write. And my friends laugh at me and say, you always say that at the end. And I have a bunch of like author friends who go through all of my, because I'm a mess when I write a book. Like I'm such a mess. I'm like, this is never going to happen. This is going to kill me. I'm this dramatic mess when I'm writing. And I think there is a moment when I believe a book is never going to work out. So of course I had that, but I think, there were things that I won't say hard, but wanted to be, I have very dear friends who have children, the adoption part of it. And, and kind of that's such a beautiful thing and such a sensitive, it's like working with gold foil, right? Like you can never, and I don't have a first hand experience of it, but I have friends I love who, who have that relationship, and children in my life that I love who are, who have had that experience. And so was very, I wanted to get that right. I wanted to get, get that relationship right. And I think so again, without spoilers, that was the thing that I kind of, and so I had, friends read it, and I kind of wanted to be very, very, so I'm always, when I'm dealing with something like that, then that it's also, it's beautiful in terms of growth and getting to live a little bit,
Yeah.
like walk in those shoes. um, but I always want to, get that note, of the love, but also abandonment. Like that's a very, that was a very delicate thread, and that might
Yeah,
have been the
yeah,
most
that
challenging
is,
for
it's
me
tough
in
to
this
hit
book.
just the right emotional tone sometimes that you're going for. Sometimes I'll picture something in my mind and I just can't quite get exactly what it is, and I just have to keep working with it and working with it. Teresa Wallace Lopez said, she goes, I love the author's character development. They are so colorful and complex. Did you develop any of these characters based on real life experiences?
Um,
Combine
so like I
two,
said,
kind of
right?
one answer. Sorry, let
It's
me interrupt just to combine it, because Deborah Ade also said, how closely does Mira follow your life as far as being a first generation to grow up here and having parents adapting the old world traditions and customs to raising children here in the US? So they're kind of related. So I'll let you take them both at once.
Yeah, and I answered the thing about the kind of parents we are, and the kind of household we have, is very much, we've worked, or that's just who we are, but we work hard to do it, where, irrespective of races, our friends, our kids' friends are all, all over. They don't only have Indian friends, or our community is not only Indian, although we have a very strong Indian community also. So both, we've worked hard for it. My kitchen is the place where, all of their friends are always there talking to us, and so we worked hard to kind of create that space. And so, so I think that, that if you looked at Ramona, so, kind of Dhruv's family versus Mira's family, um, ours is not Mira's family. That's the kind of family that really I have seen, but and hurts me. And so, so it kind of was, again, I had to be really sensitive, because I was writing about, a thing that upsets me, which then you have to kind of make sure your anger is, is still, not. But there is an interesting thing in this particular book. It so my daughter gets so upset with me, because, I don't think this is a spoiler, but there is the character of Priyanka, the um, the girl that, Mira has hurt inadvertently, even though it is, so if any, so my daughter is
Oh,
actually Priyanka, and not, and so she was so upset with me. She said, and so this frenemy who is, of course, not exactly Mira, but that kind of that split, because someone did that to my child, because my child was not how they wanted an Indian child to be, right? Or, that whole thing. And they kind of really ruined something that was
Um,
beautiful in her life. And so instead of telling the story of the person whose life was ruined, I kind of leaned into this child who had no control over, or had control over, what her mother did to my daughter, right? And so and so then that story kind of went off. But my daughter always is like, I cannot believe you. And she'll, let's call her X. She's like, I can't believe X is the heroine of your book. I'm just like, she's not. But that's the seed of it, is so it is a bad experience that my child had, that is also very much
so
in
it's
this
sort of like
story.
just from the
And although it
seeds,
is not
and
Priyanka's
then
story.
we change up a lot of things, but it's what kind of spurs the idea and gives you the basis, the foundation. So
Seed.
awesome. Well, let me find one more before we let you go. How about an easy one? Deb J wants to know, what book are you currently reading?
Reading. I'm reading Rebecca Searle's
Oh,
guest list,
I have
which
that.
is
I'm in the middle of that as well.
yeah, which is, oh my gosh, we're
Well,
like parallel
yeah,
universes.
it's a good book.
So
I'm enjoying it. I just haven't had time to finish it, but I can't wait to get back into it. But anyway, I enjoyed yours so much. And before you, oh well, I guess I'll let you go before I pick those winners I talked to you guys about. But everybody who got your book box and are in the middle of reading this, I know you're enjoying it as much as I did. So make sure that you remember to record it on my website when you're finished with it, to be entered to win the $100 gift card to the Brenda Novak store. There's something about Mira, as you can tell. Sonali is a very special person, and I feel like stories really carry the character of the person writing them, and so you get to know that person through these pages, and I think that's partly what makes this book so beautiful. So thank you so much, Sonali, for joining us. It was wonderful to see you again, even though we couldn't do it in person. I want to see you again in Chicago sometime. I think that will be fun, and I will look forward to that day, hopefully soon.
thank you, Brenda. And I think the fact, what you do for all authors, and the fact that you share your platform and you're so generous with it, is really, really
Uh,
special. And so
it
thank you so
was
much.
my
And thanks everyone who, yeah, and I cannot wait. Yeah, I cannot wait to see you in Chicago. And
Thank
thanks
you. We
everyone
love the
for
book.
joining.
Great job. And oh, and wait, one last question. Do you have anything coming out right away? I think you're looking for your next project in your mind. Is that what you told me? That you're just now thinking of kind of what you want to write next?
My next one is with so my 2026 book is already
Oh,
done,
good.
and
That's
it's
what
with
I
my
asked you.
editor. And that's
And
a
when will it
green
be
card
out?
marriage book. Yeah. It should be out, I think, winter or spring next year. I don't know for sure which, the date is, I don't have the date yet, but that was probably the
And is
hardest book I've ever written, but
related
we'll
at
talk
all to
about
this one?
that another time.
Is it related at all
Say
to
that
this
again?
one? Is it like continuing? Okay. So
No.
something completely different.
No, it's completely different. It's a green card marriage where it's two sisters. It's two sisters, and one of them has to marry the other's boyfriend, to stay in the
Oh,
country. So it's
that's going to be
it's uh,
good.
it's it's it. Yeah, you're gonna love it. But it worked me hard. It squeezed me like a toothpaste tube.
I
But
bet it's
yes,
wonderful. Well, we
yeah.
can't wait. Thanks again for joining us. Have a nice night. All right. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Now I
You
want to
too.
go back and give away those 2 boxes that Janet Roble purchased for somebody tonight. Now that you guys have had time to put in the comments where you're getting your copy of The Summer That Changed Everything. You can get autographed copies through the website, through the tour packages, through the June box, pre-order it through the stores we're visiting or any store you want. So let's see what we can do to give those away. Here we go. Reagan Ferrissier, what a pretty name. Reagan Ferrissier, Lori Weberg. So those are going to be those are going to be live viewers. Lexi's texting me because I don't have my ability to surf around while I'm doing this. So those are live viewers that are going to win $10 gift cards are Reagan Ferrissier, Lori Weberg, and Elise Goldberg McNulty. there was 3 on that one. So that's how I realized I was doing the wrong one. That's the $10 gift card to the Brenda Novak store. The May book box winners are Francis Koutroumanos. I like that name too. And Brittany Towson. So Francis Koutroumanos and Brittany Towson. And the live viewer winners for a $10 gift card are Reagan Frissier, Lori Weberg, and Elise Goldberg McNulty. Sorry, I screwed that up. She's trying to help me over here because when I'm on, it's hard for me to search through. Comments jump and move so fast. So anyway, thank you for your help with that, Lex. And I wanted to let everybody know we're always doing a fun contest in the group. So make sure you watch for those. Right now, we had you post about your Easter traditions and things that you maybe decorated with or baked or whatever, just any kind of fun Easter post. And the winner of a $25 gift card to the Brenda Novak store for posting about their Easter stuff is Judith Smith. And she posted a picture of these beautiful hand-painted eggs that we just loved. And so we thought that it would be great to have her be our winner. Also, I want to wish a happy birthday to all the people who are celebrating a birthday today. I randomly ran through some comments and I picked someone to win. And this is going to be Mary Cutter. She's going to win one of our happy birthday packages. So we have a cute mug that we put in these packages with, what'd you say?
You have the questions
Yeah. Where? I thought I did. Sorry, Lexi's reminding me of something else. Anyway, happy birthday to Mary Cutter. She's going to get one of our birthday. And before we go on to our top 10, we get to now visit with Kara. She's the one who made the delicious caramels that we had in our April book box. And she did 12 of them and 6 different kinds. And I can't wait to talk to her and learn a little bit more about how she got in this business. It's a lot of work. So let's see how she manages everything. Hi there. How are you, Kara?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
How did you get started in this business? We're all curious.
Oh, man. So real quick, I am a social work and theology major and did that for about 10 years and then had an opportunity to move back to Ohio from Texas, which is where a lot of my extended family lives. And I just needed a new direction, a new change of pace, and met up with a cousin of mine, and she had all of my great granny's recipes from pies to candies. And what I thought would just kind of help me be a hobby turned into something else. So momentum of a business.
Wow, I love it. So these are your grandma's recipes, and I think they are delicious. I mean, did she do the different kinds, or is that something that you came up with, like her basic caramel recipe, and then you decided to make flavors, or did she always do that?
No. So every Christmas she would send us all her grandkids, great grandkids, a box of like the original caramels and the pecan caramels and then with peanut brittle and then some hardtack or hard candy, whatever part of the country are you?
My mother called it hardtack too. I haven't do that.
So I remember that. And then as I was learning the craft of it, I got the blessing from my cousin who had the recipe. And then I know went to Granny's grave and had that blessing. And so then I just kind of explored how caramel kind of pairs with various food, I guess, ingredients. And then, so yeah, we just took it from there. So
I think it's so clever. I think that part of the fun is changing it up that much. I mean, starting with something basic everybody loves, but then changing it to make it new and a little bit different. So my favorite is, well, I liked them all. So I had a hard time finding a favorite, but my husband loved the coffee. I loved the coffee. I loved the plain. I loved the pecan. I loved the bourbon even. And I've never been a bourbon drinker, but it was amazing. They were all really good. So which one is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite is the when I am wrapping them one by one, I definitely do higher quality control with the coffee and with the salted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, salted is good too. So what other things do you make? Like you do the caramels, and then do you also do your granny's? Well, did you say does she do the hardtack, or did she buy the hardtack? Hardtack my mother bought.
She did hardtack. So I have started to make those. And at Christmas, I launched like some peppermint, cinnamon, some very Christmassy type, wintry type flavors. Now we're going into summer, and I'm doing like a margarita flavor, pina colada, rum flavor. I'm going to do some like diner shop flavors. So, like cola, creamsicle, root beer. So again, like just taking the ones she basically had and just kind of exploring them, kind of making them relevant. So my whole idea is taking people who experience these kind of candies, they have a nostalgia with the old candies, but then there's the new generations are experiencing a new nostalgia with things that are relatable and relevant to their liking. So yeah, and then I make brittles, so cashew brittle, peanut brittle, and then also I do some like chocolate type things, kind of in my events and more locally. So,
do you do any toffee?
I don't do any toffee, but the next thing may be fudge because I keep hearing people ask me for fudge. But the things I do right now are chocolate covered caramels, Buckeyes, and like bourbon balls that are covered in chocolate. So
I tried Buckeyes for the first time when I went on my big book stream tour, and it was really fun. It was something that we don't have out here in California, but I'll be heading back to Ohio on this tour, and so maybe I'll get to try some Buckeyes again.
Always have to do a nod to Ohio. So
yeah, that would be great if I could see you on my tour. Are you going to be anywhere close to me?
Maybe in North Carolina.
Awesome. I would love to see you. So where can people go to order more of your stuff?
They can go to www.cassiescandiesandcreations.com and they can get a box like this. This one's empty because, we eat it around here, and all the other great things they can get, and just kind of, yeah.
So you do mail orders?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we did. We included a fudge maker's fudge in one of our boxes from San Francisco, and he does a new flavor every month. So I thought that was such a clever idea. So if you do incorporate fudge, it's going to be interesting to see what flavors you pick, because you're good at sort of navigating that space and figuring out, what flavors are going to be good to blend with other flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this?
I started in 2000. When was that? 2022, 2021. Okay. So I just kind of launched it at one of a small festival in the small village I was living in Ohio, and thought it could be. Then it kind of grew from there, and I'm just kind of taking it as it comes and enjoying every moment, and just trying to make my great granny proud every day. So,
do you ever go to farmers markets?
Yep. I do farmers markets. I do events, both in Ohio, and I've started to expand to North Carolina area, Concord, Charlotte area. So we're getting going on events there and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have one more question for you. How do you make them all so perfectly even? Like, I was so impressed in making that many boxes. I mean, and you can't vary because they're in those squares. They have to fit, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, she did a beautiful job making these all so uniform and perfect. How did you manage that?
So it's a lot of molds that I take the 5-pound caramel plot every time, pour it over, and just scrape across and make it as even as I can. But again, that's the great thing about homemade candies or homemade anything. It's just every one is different. It looks different every time, color, design, all that good stuff. So
you know what I just found that I am thinking about, I would love to put in a box. They were Twinkies that were dunked in chocolate and then rolled in like Butterfinger or M&Ms, all these, and they looked pretty decadent and fun. Even though I'm not a big Twinkie eater, I just thought that would be fun. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen that. No, that would be good though. But I've started down here. There's a drink called cheer wine that people love that I'm learning about. It's like Dr. Pepper in Texas, where I'm from. And so I'm trying to do some like cheer wine truffles and things, and cheer wine hardtack, or so see if that takes off down here. So
nice. Well, we're going to keep our eye on you. And if anybody wants to order more, make sure you go to Kara's website. She's a great little entrepreneur, and we're so happy to be associated with her. So hope I get to see you on tour, Kara. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All work to help us get those boxes as good as they were.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a book group meeting. I had so much fun meeting both Kara and Sonali here live with you guys. And I'm so glad that you could join me. Before I go, I want to make sure that I read our top 10 contributors off. These are people who contribute the most in the group. And I think that there's been a little bit of confusion about this, because we've had some people get their feelings hurt because they think that we are choosing these, or they've been working hard trying to get into it and maybe don't understand that it's Facebook that designates how active you are. We don't These are not favorites we're picking or anything. We're just going by Facebook metrics. And the only reason why it matters is because it really helps other people find our posts and give them more legs when there's activity on them, when people comment, when they like, when they share. So it's just to encourage that so that we can reach everybody in our group, because Facebook chooses what goes in your feed. And this tells them, hey, we like this, we want to be in that feed. So we appreciate the work that these ladies do to make sure everybody can see our stuff. And if you too are wanting to try and become a top 10 contributor, it's making sure you like and comment on all the posts. But what they'll do is even go into the individual pictures of each post. I think that that's what the one person I was talking to that was a little disappointed she hadn't made it. I don't think she understood that there are pictures, sometimes more than one picture on a post, and they're commenting on each of those as well. So maybe that was the difference. I don't know. But anyway, our top 10 for this month. Every time you're chosen in top 10, your name goes into a hat to win a year's worth of Brenda Novak book boxes, which you share with 3 other people. So that means that there's 12 boxes and you each get 3. There's 4 people that get 3. So the top 10 contributors for this month is Janet Roble, Karen Chandler, Nicole Duvall, Cheryl Little, Star Roybal, Marie Christensen, Jen Miller, Virgie Lane, Nancy Brady, and Jo Marie Muirder. So congratulations to you, ladies. And thank you so much for all the support and time. I know that takes time, and we really appreciate you. Again, remember to record that you read There's Something About Mira, our April read by May 15th on my website. It's easy to find. You just go to brendanovak.com and you click book group, and there's a pull down menu that has a link that says record your read here. So we make it as easy as possible, and you just record it by that date to be entered to win our $100 gift card giveaway. But you have no monthly deadline in order to finish your challenge. So if you are late one month or whatever, you can make it up and you can still earn your pin as long as you let us know that you finished the challenge by January 15th. And that also enters you to win the dedication in one of my future releases. So our May read is The Page Turner by Viola Shipman. If you guys remember, when I went on tour with the book stream, I got to stay with Wade and Gary, and we had a blast. It was my birthday, and that's why we are having May be their box, because I remember celebrating this wonderful birthday with them. And so we're going to have some more fun with them. Make sure you join us for the meeting, which is going to be the last Thursday of the month, and get your order in for May's boxes before we run out of those. They're going to have the sterling silver elephant. They're going to have this beautiful one of these. We have various colors, these beautiful rich silk scarves. We're going to have an incense burner. We're going to have all kinds of fun things in that box that are from India and my trip and the things that I found there. So anyway, love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the support. The fun box grant giveaways we were able to do this week really touched my heart. We've had so many generous people contribute to that so that we can give these boxes to people who need a little bit of sunshine in their lives. So thank you. Have a nice night.